Not because of your age, not because of your money, not because of what you say, but because of how you carry yourself when no one is watching. That is what makes a younger woman stop, notice, and slowly, uncontrollably, become drawn to you in a way she cannot explain. There's a lie most men believe. They think attraction is about chasing, impressing, proving. Especially when it comes to younger women, they feel they must compete, be louder, richer, more entertaining. But the truth is quieter than that, deeper than that, and far more powerful, because what truly creates obsession is not effort, it's presence. I want you to imagine a man who walks into a room and says very little. He doesn't try to dominate the conversation. He doesn't rush to impress, yet somehow people feel him, women feel him. There is a calm intensity about him, a grounded energy that doesn't seek validation. And that is where everything begins. You see, younger women are surrounded by noise. Men their age are often trying too hard, speaking too fast, chasing too aggressively. It becomes predictable, and predictability kills intrigue. But when you are older, you have something they don't. You have lived. You have experienced failure, loss, growth, lessons that shaped you. And if you've truly learned from life, it shows. Not in what you say, but in how you are. The first thing you must understand is this. Obsession is not created by giving more. It is created by making her feel something rare, something she cannot find everywhere, and what is rare today. A man who is emotionally stable, a man who listens without needing to fix everything, a man who is not desperate for attention, a man who has direction, even if he is still building. When you speak, you are not trying to impress her. You are simply expressing your truth, and that difference is everything, because she can feel it. Women are incredibly intuitive. They can sense when a man is performing versus when he is being real, and real is magnetic. I once knew a man, he wasn't the richest, not the most handsome, not the loudest, but he had something that most men lacked. He was comfortable with himself, completely. He didn't shrink in silence, and he didn't overcompensate with noise. He just existed with certainty, and younger women, they were drawn to him like gravity, not because he chased them, but because he didn't. That's the paradox most men fail to understand. The more you chase, the less she values you. The more you try to prove yourself, the more you signal that you don't believe you are enough. But when you stand in your own worth quietly, calmly, without needing approval, you create curiosity. And curiosity is the seed of obsession, because now she begins to wonder, who is he really? Why doesn't he react like other men? Why does his attention feel different, almost earned? And once a woman starts asking questions about you in her mind, you've already entered her world. But here's where most men ruin it. They get attention, and then they panic. They start overgiving, over-texting, over-explaining. They lose the very energy that attracted her in the first place. They go from mystery to predictability, from grounded to needy, and just like that, the spark fades. You must understand this clearly. Attraction grows in space, not pressure. You don't need to message her every hour. You don't need to constantly reassure her. In fact, when you do that, you remove the emotional tension that creates desire. Instead, you become steady, you show interest, but you don't drown her in it. You engage, but you don't cling. You appreciate, but you don't pedestalize, and in that balance, something powerful happens. She begins to lean in, because now she is not just receiving your attention, she is earning it. And what we earn, we value. What we value, we protect. And what we protect, we think about. That is where obsession begins. Not from manipulation, not from tricks, but from emotional contrast, from being different in a world where everyone is the same. You must also learn the power of restraint. Not everything needs to be said. Not every moment needs to be filled. Silence, when used correctly, is incredibly attractive. It gives her space to project her thoughts onto you. to wonder what you're thinking, to feel the depth of your presence, and depth is intoxicating because younger women are not just looking for excitement. They are looking for experience, for grounding, for something that feels safe, yet intriguing at the same time. And that is your advantage, but only if you embrace it. If you try to act like a younger man, you lose your edge. If you try to compete where you don't belong, you weaken your presence. But when you fully accept who you are, your age, your journey, your lessons, you step into a power that cannot be faked. And that power creates emotional impact. Remember this. She doesn't need another man who entertains her. She needs a man who makes her feel something deeper than entertainment, seen, understood, challenged. Calm, when you can create those emotions without trying too hard, she will not just like you, she will think about you. And when a woman starts thinking about you when you're not around, you've already won half the game. Because attraction lives in the mind long before it shows in actions. There is a moment in every connection where things either deepen or quietly fall apart. And most men never even realize when that moment arrives, because they are too focused on what they want instead of what they are creating. You see, attraction might begin with presence, but obsession is built through emotional experience. It's how she feels when she's around you, and even more importantly, how she feels when she's away from you. That's the part most men ignore. They think if she laughs, if she smiles, if she responds, they've done enough. But laughter is temporary, smiles fade, what stays is emotional imprint, so the question becomes, what does she feel after you're gone? Does she feel full, or does she feel curious? Does she feel satisfied, or does she feel intrigued? Does she feel like she understands you, or like there's more to discover? Because what keeps her coming back is not comfort alone, it's the desire to uncover more layers of you. And that requires depth, not fake mystery, not playing games, but real depth. You see, as an older man, your greatest strength is not what you have, it's what you've lived through. Your experiences, your struggles, your quiet battles, those are stories. And stories, when shared with intention, create emotional connection. But here's where it gets powerful. You don't tell her everything. You reveal yourself in pieces, a thought here, a lesson there, a glimpse of your past without explaining every detail. You let her feel like she's discovering you, not being overwhelmed by you. Because when a woman feels like she's discovering something rare, she invests, and investment leads to attachment. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how people value things more when they have to work for them? The same applies emotionally. If you hand her your entire world instantly, there's nothing left to explore. No tension, no curiosity. But when you allow her to step closer, slowly, naturally, she begins to attach meaning to every moment with you. Every conversation feels important. Every silence feels intentional. Every glance feels loaded with something deeper. And that's when her mind starts to replay you again and again. Now, here's something most men will never understand. You don't build obsession by being perfect. You build it by being real with control. You don't need to impress her with constant success stories. In fact, sometimes it's your honesty, your grounded, unapologetic truth that hits her the hardest. When you speak about your life, you don't exaggerate. You don't perform, you speak like a man who has nothing to prove, and that is rare, because most men are trying to win her approval. But you're simply allowing her to see you, and that shift changes everything. Because now, instead of feeling like she's being convinced, she feels like she's choosing. And when a woman feels like she chose you on her own, her emotional investment becomes far stronger. But let me warn you about something dangerous. Consistency does not mean availability. This is where many men lose control. They think being consistent means always being there, always replying instantly, always making her the center of their world. But that's not consistency, that's overexposure. And overexposure kills desire. True consistency is emotional steadiness. It's knowing that when she connects with you, She feels the same grounded energy every time, not hot and cold, not confusing, just stable, but your time, your attention, your availability, those are earned because you are not building your life around her. You are inviting her into a life that already has direction, and that difference creates respect, and respect fuels attraction far more than attention ever will. Let me paint a picture for you. She messages you, and you don't rush to reply instantly, not because you're playing a game, but because you have a life. You're focused, you're building, and when you do reply, it's thoughtful, calm, intentional. She feels it. She notices that you're not like other men who jump at every notification, and slowly she begins to adjust her behavior. She starts thinking before she messages you. She starts valuing your replies more. She starts wondering what you're doing when you're not there. And that wondering, that space becomes emotional tension. And emotional tension is the birthplace of obsession. Because now her mind is involved. And once a woman's mind is engaged, her emotions follow. But there's one more layer to this. You must challenge her gently, not by arguing, not by controlling, but by not always agreeing, by having your own perspective, your own standards, your own boundaries. Because if you agree with everything she says, if you always try to please her, you become predictable. And predictability fades. But when you respectfully stand your ground, when you show that you think independently, you create polarity. And polarity creates attraction. She begins to see you not just as a man who likes her, but as a man who stands on his own. And that is incredibly powerful because now she doesn't just feel comfortable with you, she feels challenged by you, intrigued by you, drawn to understand you. And when those emotions combine comfort and curiosity, safety and mystery, that's when something deeper begins to form. Something she cannot easily explain. Something that pulls her back to you even when you're not around. There comes a stage where her interest is no longer just curiosity, it becomes emotional attachment. And this is where most men either rise into something unforgettable or quietly lose everything they've built. Because now she's watching you more closely. Not just what you say, but how you behave when things are uncertain, when emotions get involved, when she tests you without even realizing it. And understand this clearly, tests are not always intentional. They are emotional responses. She pulls back a little. She becomes distant. She takes longer to reply, not because she's playing games, but because she's trying to feel something. She's trying to see if your energy changes. And most men fail right here. The moment she pulls back, they panic. They double their effort. They chase harder. They ask questions like, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? And in doing so, they reveal something they don't even realize. They reveal dependence. And the moment a woman feels that your emotional state depends on her behavior, the dynamic shifts. The attraction weakens. But a man who understands himself responds differently. When she pulls back, he doesn't chase. He doesn't withdraw in anger either. He simply remains grounded. He continues living his life. He continues focusing on his purpose. He allows space without turning it into fear, and that response does something powerful. It resets the emotional balance. Because now, instead of you chasing her energy, she begins to feel the absence of yours. An absence, when felt correctly, creates clarity. She starts to notice that you're not reacting like other men. She starts to wonder why you're not affected. She starts to feel your value, and value is not what you say you are. It's what she feels when you're not there. You see, obsession is not built in constant presence. It's built in meaningful absence. In those quiet moments when she finds herself thinking about you without trying. And here's where it becomes deeper. You must be a man of emotional control. Not emotionless, but controlled. There is a difference. You can feel deeply, but you don't react impulsively. You don't let temporary emotions dictate permanent behavior. You don't lose your center just because the situation becomes unclear, and that steadiness is rare. Because most people today are driven by impulse. They react quickly, speak quickly, attach quickly, and fall apart just as quickly. But when you become a man who moves with intention, who speaks after thinking, who responds instead of reacting, you become unforgettable. Because now she feels something she doesn't often experience, security, not the kind that comes from comfort alone, but the kind that comes from emotional strength. She begins to trust your presence, and trust is where obsession deepens into something far more powerful. Because now she's not just intrigued by you, she feels safe with you, and when a woman feels both safe and excited by the same man, she struggles to let go. But let me tell you something most men ignore. You must have boundaries. Without them, everything collapses. Boundaries are not rules you force on her, they are standards you live by, quietly, firmly, without needing to announce them. If she disrespects your time, you don't argue, you step back. If she behaves inconsistently, you don't chase, you observe. If something doesn't align with your values, you don't bend, you remain true to yourself. And in doing so, you send a message without words. That your presence is not easily accessible, that your time has value, that your standards are real. And that creates respect, and remember, attraction without respect does not last, but when respect is present, attraction grows stronger over time. Now, here's something even deeper. You must not make her your purpose. This is where many older men fall into a trap. They find a younger woman who brings excitement, energy, freshness into their life, and they slowly begin to revolve around her. They lose their focus, they lose their mission, they lose themselves, and the very thing that made them attractive disappears. Because what drew her to you in the first place was not your attention, it was your direction. Your life had movement, it had meaning, it had structure, and when you abandon that for her, you lose your edge, so instead you do the opposite. You invite her into your world, but you never abandon your path for her. You continue growing, you continue building, you continue becoming, and she feels it. She sees that your life does not pause for her, and strangely, that makes her want to be part of it even more. Because now she doesn't feel like your center, she feels like she has to earn her place beside you. And that feeling is powerful, because people don't obsess over what they already fully have. They obsess over what feels valuable, slightly out of reach, yet emotionally close. That balance is everything. Too distant and she disconnects. Too available and she loses interest. But right in the middle, where she feels you, but can't fully predict you, that's where obsession lives. And if you've followed this journey so far, you're beginning to understand something deeper. This is not about manipulation. This is about becoming a man whose presence naturally creates impact, a man who doesn't force attraction but allows it to grow, a man who doesn't chase attention but commands it through who he is. And when you reach that level, you don't need to make a woman obsessed. She becomes that way on her own. There is a final shift that happens, and very few men ever reach it. It's the moment when you stop focusing on how to make her feel something, and you start becoming someone who naturally evokes those feelings without trying. Because by now, if you've truly understood everything we've walked through, you realize this isn't about techniques. It's not about lines, timing, or strategies. It's about identity, who you are when you wake up, who you are when things don't go your way, who you are when no one is watching. That is what she connects to. Because at the deepest level, a younger woman is not just drawn to your age, she is drawn to your certainty, your grounded nature, your ability to remain calm in a world that constantly feels chaotic. And here's the truth most men avoid. You cannot fake that. You can pretend for a moment. You can say the right things, act the right way, but eventually your true self reveals itself. And if there is insecurity, it will show. If there is emptiness, it will surface. So the real question becomes, who are you becoming? Because obsession, real obsession, is not built on illusion. It's built on consistency between your words, your actions, and your energy. When those three align, you become powerful, and that power is quiet. It doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need to be proven. It is felt. Now let me take you deeper. A woman becomes emotionally attached when she starts associating you with a feeling she cannot easily replace. Not just attraction, but emotional elevation. When she's around you, she feels more present. When she talks to you, she feels more understood. When she thinks of you, she feels something calm yet exciting at the same time. And when that emotional combination becomes rare in her life, she holds onto it tightly. But here's the part you must never forget. You don't create that by focusing on her. You create that by mastering yourself. Your discipline, your emotional control, your purpose, your standards. Because when your life is in order, your presence becomes magnetic. You don't need to entertain constantly. You don't need to impress endlessly. Your energy alone carries weight. And that weight makes her feel something different. Something she cannot find in men who are still searching for themselves. Now let's talk about something even more real. Time reveals everything. In the beginning, it's easy to maintain composure. It's easy to stay grounded, to be intentional, to hold your frame. But as emotions grow, as connection deepens, that's when your true character is tested. Can you still remain centered when you start to care? Can you still maintain your standards when feelings are involved? Can you still walk away from what doesn't align even if it's difficult? Because that is where your real power lies. Not in attracting her, but in not losing yourself once you do. Most men can create attraction for a moment. Very few can sustain it because they lose their identity in the process. But when you remain rooted in who you are, when you refuse to abandon your path, when you continue growing regardless of who enters or leaves your life, you become irreplaceable. And that's when obsession reaches its peak, because now she doesn't just feel drawn to you, she fears losing you. Not out of insecurity, but out of awareness. Awareness that what you bring into her life is not common. That your presence is not something she can easily find again. And when a woman reaches that realization, she invests emotionally in a way that goes far beyond surface-level attraction. But listen carefully, this is not about making her dependent. This is not about controlling her emotions. This is about becoming a man who inspires deep connection naturally, because anything built on manipulation will eventually collapse. But what is built on authenticity lasts, so you don't chase obsession. You become the kind of man who is remembered, felt, respected, and when you reach that point, something shifts inside you. You no longer act from need. You act from choice. You don't hold on tightly. You allow things to flow. And strangely, that's when people hold on to you the most. Because there is no pressure, no force, just presence, calm, grounded, undeniable presence, and that is what stays with her. Long after the conversation ends, long after the moment passes, long after you've walked away, because you didn't just try to impress her, you made her feel something real. And in the end, everything comes back to something simple, yet incredibly rare. Not how you made her chase you, but how you made her feel when she finally slowed down and truly saw you. Because real connection is not built on pressure, it's not built on tactics or control or trying to outsmart emotions. Those things might create moments, but they never create something that lasts. What lasts is truth. The truth in your presence, the truth in your actions, the truth in the way you live your life when no one is applauding you. That is what she remembers, not the lines you used, not the timing of your replies, but the feeling of being around a man who knew himself and didn't need to prove it. A man who didn't rush her, but didn't wait endlessly either. A man who didn't lose himself in her, but didn't push her away. A man who stood firm in his world and invited her into it without force. That balance is everything. Because when a woman experiences that kind of energy, something shifts inside her. She begins to trust it, to value it, to crave it in a way that goes beyond surface attraction. And that's when it becomes real. Not obsession driven by confusion, but attachment built on respect. Not desire fueled by games, but connection rooted in something deeper. And here's the part you must carry with you long after this ends. You don't need to become someone else to create that. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to perform. You need to refine who you already are, to build your life with intention, to move with clarity, to speak with honesty, to act with discipline. Because when you become a man who is aligned within himself, everything around you begins to align as well. People feel it, women feel it, and the right ones stay, not because you held on to them, but because your presence gave them a reason to. So don't chase obsession, chase growth, chase purpose. Chase the version of yourself that doesn't need validation to feel whole. And when you reach that place, you won't have to wonder how to make her think about you. She will naturally, effortlessly, and deeply, because you didn't try to become unforgettable. You simply became real.